welcome to this week's episode of the Made for More podcast. Today I'm talking with a very interesting and inspiring guest. I've got Oliver Jackson here with me. Strap in, buckle up. This is going to be an absolute beauty. Thank you, Oliver. It's so great to have you here.
Excellent. Now you put me under some pressure here, but thanks for having me. I better be exciting.
You're very exciting. We were just talking before I hit record, and I am very excited to unpack your journey and where you've come from to where you're going. And on that note, tell me a little bit around how you came to be. You know, where did you start out?
Well, I grew up in Canberra, which sounds pretty boring, but I actually grew up in a circus.
Yes, you did.
We can dive a little bit deeper into that if you like.
Yes, tell me what it is like growing up in a circus. This is every child's dream.
It literally is, and it was. Like, I can't explain what it's like. It's literally like every dream you could ever imagine. So I grew up in a normal family, went to a normal school, and the circus was like my second family. So we used to travel with them on school holidays and weekends, and still to this day, I still get in there and go on the trapeze and the trampoline whenever I can. You know, when I was young, I used to swim with elephants in, let's say we'd end up in the middle of New South Wales somewhere. We'd go swimming in a river with the elephants. It was tiger cubs. One of the clowns was a drunk midget. He used to scare the shit out of me when I was about 10 years old. Like, it was all that crazy stuff, helping putting up the tent, performing in the show.
Yeah.
It was a pretty amazing childhood, I have to admit.
Yeah, it sounds absolutely wild. And you mentioned about the trapeze and the trampoline. Is that your go-to trick?
No, I'm no good at it.
All right.
But it's
Just
fun.
really like it.
I used to be good at juggling, bit of handstands. But yeah, no, I used to go on the trapeze, but I was definitely no master.
Right. That's absolutely amazing. I remember as a little girl actually going to the circus, and all I wanted to do was, you know, literally run away with the circus. It sounded so fun and mysterious, and the carnival life seemed like a pretty good idea when you're 6 or 7. So tell me a little bit more around, you know, you grew up mainstream, but also on the weekends joined a circus. Tell me a little bit more about how that progressed into where you are today.
So I always had a pretty crazy I guess, outlook on life. My parents were pretty middle class, normal. I think I rebelled a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I learned that because I had 2 older brothers who used to pick on me. It was my way of getting away from them.
Right.
Or the circus, you know, I had a lot of freedom, obviously, there. So that's why I used to love going there and traveling. So I enjoyed freedom. And when my mum was strict on me, I think I did anything possible to get away with doing whatever I wanted to do.
Right.
I finished year 12, surprisingly, but I spent most of school chasing girls and getting drunk and having little side hustle businesses. I used to sell a whole lot of stuff, computer games, and I always just thought about business, not so much education.
Right. Bit of that different entrepreneurial mindset there.
Yeah. Like, I had a lolly selling business when I was about 6 or 7 in primary school.
Yeah.
I used to buy lollies and then take them to school and sell them and then go buy more lollies. So I get free lollies for myself.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome. Not like licked lollies though. No, secondhand lollies, great.
Definitely. I had a good running clean business there.
Yeah, right.
So I always had an entrepreneurial side, and like, I was really good at photography and maths and sport. So the maths was obviously good for the business side of things. I've always been quite creative with English, even though I taught myself to read after school.
So you couldn't read during school?
Not really. Like, I was kind of dyslexic. Or I am a dyslexic, I guess. Like, I love creative writing and I write well. I'm just a terrible speller. Mm-hmm. At school, I just avoided reading anything possible and taught myself to read in my mid-20s properly.
Yeah,
First book I read was Shantaram, which is 1,100 pages.
Wow. Just ease into it, you think?
Yeah, it was fascinating. That's what hooked me on reading, though. That one book was just mind-blowing for me, the story. So from there, I read now probably 3 to 4 books every single week and have for years.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So yeah, it's never too late to learn how to read, I have to say.
Yeah, well, as they say, that's amazing. And we'll get into a little bit of how you ended up reading your very first book from cover to cover. We'll go into it right now. So tell me, you had a pretty fun time in your late teens, partying, living your best life. Then what happened?
Yeah, so I took the partying maybe a little bit too far. I ended up in prison in my I think I was about 26, 25. Like I was
Right.
partying, selling drugs,
Yeah.
feed I wouldn't call it a habit because I was never like addicted to it. It was just to feed the lifestyle.
Yeah. Right.
Um, so first day when I woke up in prison, it was like, yeah, this has got to change. And
Yeah.
that's,
So it took getting to prison as your reality
yeah.
slap, so to speak, to say like, okay, I can do
Mm.
better, be better.
Yeah, it's a
Find better.
lifestyle that when you're in it, you're like, oh, no, I'm done now. But it's very hard to get out of
Mm.
because it's fun
Yeah.
and you're young and you never think, oh, I'm going to be, 40 with kids. You always think I'm going to be 25 forever.
Yeah.
And then when I woke up there, I read Shantaram, which is actually about a guy who was in prison and then escaped to help people in India. And that kind of was like a really big reality check. I was like, okay, I got to sort this out.
Yeah. So tell me, when you woke up there that first morning and you were like, oh dear, like I need to do something. And we were talking a little bit about this before I hit record as well. So tell me, what that was like. What was, I guess, the first step is you started reading that book, but there must have been some kind of decision that you made that first morning or even that first week where you're like, okay, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. What was the first trigger that set you on your path?
The first thing I did was find the biggest, baddest islander I've ever seen in my life and
Right.
make friends with him.
Yes.
Nico,
Okay.
Nico, I love you. We're still friends to this day.
Right.
So first it was risk mitigation.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a bad experience in there.
Yeah.
And then after that, I kind of had time to settle in and I guess I just focused on myself. So, like when you're locked in a self 18 hours a day, it sounds horrible, but it's actually better than being not locked in, like out in the
Yeah.
yard, because that's
Yeah.
when you feel threat and you're
Yeah.
constantly on edge and it's draining.
Yeah.
So when I was in there, I just worked on myself 100%. A lot of meditation, a lot of reading. I did weird stuff like made teddy bears,
Oh,
learnt poetry, learnt how to draw, played guitar,
yeah.
like just fully dialed in on myself. And that lifestyle just didn't align anymore.
Yeah. Right. So you were in prison for how long?
2 years.
2 years. So in that 2 year time, you've literally turned your life around. So you woke up on the first morning, we're like, bit of risk mitigation, absolutely important when you're faced with any kind of existential crisis. And then you started going, okay, well, how can I make the best of this situation that I'm in? And instead of turning outwardly, started looking inwardly around, the meditation and the reading and doing things that you hadn't ever done before, making teddies. That's probably something you never thought that you would do in your lifetime, and perhaps you'll never do it again, but it's a skill that you've now gained. So tell me, after those 2 years, then what happened and where are you now?
So the whole process from start to finish of that journey was 7.5 years from
Yeah.
when I was caught to when I'd finished my parole.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite a long process.
Yeah.
A lot happens. A lot changed. So when I got out, I had 2.5 years where I was on, they call it parole,
Mm-hmm.
which is very, very hard. I think there's about an 85% rate of people reoffending,
Yeah.
because
Wow.
parole is quite hard.
Yeah.
So if you miss a meeting, you go back in. So I got a job in a restaurant,
Mm-hmm.
and I literally said to the boss, look, I'm on parole. I have to go to meetings. If they call me at 10 o'clock, I have to go.
Yeah.
Like I was very straight up. A lot of people don't have that. They work in a factory and they can't tell anyone.
Yeah.
Otherwise they won't have a job. So
Yeah.
it's quite hard. I'm very organized, very structured. I'm very hardworking. So my boss was fine with that, which really helped with my transition.
Yeah.
And I got out of jail pretty much bankrupt.
Yeah.
Legal bills were massive. So I had a lot of work to do. And I think I spent the next probably 5 years just trying to prove myself I think I was trying to prove myself to other people that I could rebuild my life, which in the future actually ended my marriage because I worked too hard and tried to build. I built a $4 million property portfolio within about 4 years of getting out.
Yeah.
But then
Amazing.
I kept working and working. I was making 300-400 grand a year,
Yeah.
which sounds great, but I wasn't spending much time with my wife, didn't see my kids much. So the need to have to show people that I could change my life, I think I took it too far.
Yeah.
Which is what I really focus on now is I've dialed it right back.
Yeah.
Like the care for other people is very minimal. I just
Yeah.
want to try and help people with my story and kind of show how I got through that part of my life.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your vulnerability and sharing such, I guess a low point in your life and how it's turned around. I think that that's amazing. And it shows, the resilience that people can build up over time and what you can actually do to completely turn your life around. Tell me a little bit around, I know that you said you're hardworking and structured. So tell me a little bit more around your structure and your routine, your morning routine.
Oh, my morning routine's crazy. Even before I went to jail, I had a pretty good routine. Like now it's wake up around 4:30, 5 o'clock.
Yep.
I do pranayama, breathing, meditation.
Yep.
At the moment I'm training for a triathlon, so I do a lot of riding, a lot of running, a lot of yoga. I'm plant-based, so I've got to eat a lot of food because I do between 2 and 5 hours of exercise a day.
Yeah. Wow.
So I have to really plan my meals. I have crazy smoothies that have like 17 ingredients in them.
Wow.
Yeah. So in between each exercise section, I have to eat, then leave enough time for the next section. And then if you try and do breath work with too much food, you feel sick. Yeah. So my morning routine's probably about 3.5 hours.
Yeah. Wow.
And probably has been for about a decade.
Yeah.
Like when I was in construction, I used to wake up at 4 o'clock, go to the gym so I could get to work at 6:30.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think morning routine and setting your day is the most important thing. I have everything done before anyone's even woken up.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of people try and leave later and then they're getting distracted.
Yeah.
Doesn't work.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. And I get great personal satisfaction out of starting my day before anyone else has started their day and get all of my things done. And I think it is such a good way to, I guess, such a good habit to get into for yourself if you're wanting to be super disciplined, get a lot done, achieve a lot. So you run a business at the moment. So tell me about your current business.
It's called Living Property. So we're a buyer's agency. We buy property Australia-wide. We focus on value add, so renovation, subdivision, development.
Yep.
So basically, I'm just helping my clients do exactly what I did.
Yeah.
To build my wealth.
Yeah. And I think that's amazing what you're doing. And it's really interesting. You mentioned earlier, you've always had that entrepreneurial mindset from, selling lollies at school to whatever video games later on in life to the drugs later on. And then you've always been building businesses. Are there any other businesses that you've built? And tell me more about that.
Yeah, I had a PT business in my mid-20s for a few years, which kind of I loved, but I kind of didn't because I think I'm very driven and very dedicated, and not everyone else is. And when you're a PT, it's usually with people that aren't as dedicated, and it frustrated me.
Yeah, right.
It's like, well, if you want to fit into that dress, or you want to be this big, or you want that, then I'm helping you do it. But people don't have the resilience or the dedication to actually do it. They think they want it, but they don't actually, their why maybe isn't strong enough. Yeah. And that frustrated me. Yeah. And then I had a cafe for a few years, which I ended up donating to charity before I went to repent for my sins, I guess you could say. Right. I was in hospitality on and off for probably 15 years. Yeah. Roasting coffee, barista. I ended up cooking in my cafe. Working in hospitality and owning a cafe is relentless. Yeah. You do 100 hours a week and you get, it's hard work. It's brutal, to be honest. So when I got back out and went back into the hospitality industry, I was like, I need to go construction in Melbourne at the time. Even now, that's where the money's at, basically. Not in hospitality. Yeah. So I went to the construction industry, which is the hardest work I've ever done in my life, but it set me up for where I am now. Yeah. And I think your entire story, which is so fascinating, and it's the things that people only dream of and can imagine. So tell me a little bit about how resilience keeps popping up for you time and time again, and you've obviously built resilience over time. So tell me, have you recognized that you're building it? How are you cultivating resilience in yourself? How do you teach it? Talk to me about resilience. I don't think you can read or teach or learn resilience at all. If someone tells you that they're a resilience coach, then they're full of it. It's not possible. People can teach you how to see things from a different angle and get past things. Yeah. Like this is the way, like I have a coach who's had a similar life to me. He's a bit older than me. And he's like, well, this is this is a good way to look at it, but
Yeah.
you can't go, it's like the PT. It's like you can't just tell someone how to do it.
Yeah.
You have to fail, you have to hit rock bottom and get your way through it
Yeah.
to build that resilience.
Yeah.
And I've just been through a divorce earlier this year after a 10-year marriage.
Yeah.
And that was probably the hardest thing I've been through, but the resilience I had probably didn't make it as hard for me as it would have been for other people.
Yeah.
Then obviously when COVID hit, it's like, oh, there's this pandemic, everyone's freaking out. And I was like, this is nothing. Like, it's not ideal. And I feel sorry for people, but it's like, you've just got to pivot, learn how to deal with it and get through it.
Yeah.
I've got a lot more time to work on myself now and hang out with my kids. It's great. Like I don't have to drive anywhere.
Yeah.
So I see the benefits of it and use my past to get me through things like COVID or a divorce.
Yeah, right. So what I'm hearing you say is around the more that we have to practice resilience, the better that we get at it. And then people that haven't had to have or deal with such tragic situations or difficult situations, COVID's been, 2020 has been a real doozy of a year for sure. And I think the people that have already faced adversity in the past and have had to stand back up again, so to speak, are really having a different perspective on what this year has meant. And similar to you, I know that there are a lot of people that have spent this year actually going, okay, well, here's the situation that we're in. How can I make the best of a bad thing? Yes, I'm locked at home. What can I be doing while I'm locked at home? And you've actually decided to embark on a few of your own personal challenges. So tell me what you're currently training for at the moment.
Yeah, this has honestly been the best year of my life. So, and I'm in Melbourne. It's, what is it, October, and we're still in stage 4 lockdown.
So I can't believe that when you said that earlier.
This is 8 months of lockdown, which people say we're locked down and we've got curfews. Try going to prison.
Yeah.
When I was 25, I had a curfew for 3 years at 10 p.m. when I was out. Like, this is nothing. Anyway, so basically when COVID started in March, I just started training for a marathon for charity.
Yeah.
And then obviously that kept getting pushed back because of the lockdown. So I decided to take it to the next level to do an ultramarathon, which is 100 kilometers.
Yeah, amazing.
And now it's turned into that and an Ironman, which I'm training for in September. So I've gone from running, I haven't run in 12 years, haven't ridden a road bike ever in my life, and haven't swum a lap ever.
Yeah.
Been training 25 hours a week, 7 days.
Yeah.
My house looks like a Fitness First.
No.
Nice. I live in the top of a mountain, so I do a lot of hill running.
Yeah.
But I'm doing all this stuff for charity to show awareness that, I'm 38. I spent 20 years of my life getting off my face. I've got 4-year-old twins that I have 50% of the time. I run a business.
Yeah.
There's no excuses. You can do it. And the training and the routine that I have is the one thing that has got me through all of my struggles through my whole life.
Yeah. And I think that that's amazing that you've stuck to it and recognized that. And then you're doing even more for charity. What I'm really curious about is how do you practice swimming right now?
Well, the pool opened 2 days ago.
Oh.
So I've been swimming for 2 days.
Yeah, right.
But there's a machine called a swim erg. So it's kind of like a rower, but it's for swimming.
Oh, no, I've only ever heard of a ski erg, but I want to know about this swim erg.
There's no water involved. But I've been swimming in the pool for 2 days now, and I'm actually not that bad. So,
nice.
But I got a lot of work to do.
Nice.
And I only get 45 minutes. It sucks.
Yeah. Yep. So you've got to be really committed to the work that you do during the time that you have.
Yes, I have a very good coach, triathlon coach. He's professional. He's very, very good. Very
cool. And also at the beginning of the year, you decided to cut out a lot of junk in your diet. Tell me a little bit around that and the impact that that's had.
Yeah, so I've done a lot of research. Like before this, I did a lot of CrossFit, which is a lot of paleo, a lot of meat, like a high fat kind of diet.
Yeah.
Then I started doing the running. I read a book called Finding Ultra by Rich Roll, and he's a vegan ultra marathon and Ironman, one of the best in the world. So I felt like I was drinking beer, eating burgers, and then trying to run 30 Ks. Didn't make sense.
Yeah.
So I did 30 days, no sugar, no drugs, no alcohol, went fully plant-based and no coffee, because the coffee and the dehydration was dehydrating me too much through my run.
Mm-hmm.
So I did 30 days, and that was 8 months ago.
Yep.
I haven't had anything. I'm fully plant-based now.
Yep.
And I haven't had any drugs, any alcohol, any sugar, any coffee.
Yeah.
And I don't think I ever will, to be honest.
That's amazing.
My recovery, my inflammation in my body's gone down. My recovery is amazing. My sleep's better than it's ever been.
Yeah.
And I'm training more than I ever have in my life.
Yeah. That's so incredible. And you quit everything on the same day?
Yep.
So tell me a little bit around that. You just decided, like read Finding Ultra and then decided that, yes, I don't need these things in my life anymore? Or how was that process?
So at the time I was living with a friend, and I was like, I'm moving to the hills. It's about an hour out of Melbourne. I live in a national park. I'm like, I'm moving to the hills. And the day, I think it was like the 12th of March. That day I'm quitting everything for 30 days.
Yep.
And I live in an amazing house and haven't touched any of it since.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
It's like that song, I'm moving to the country and going to eat a lot of peaches, and moving to the hills and you're going to eat a lot of veggies. I think that's incredible. And you also just mentioned around how how much your sleep's improved. And we were talking before I hit record around like the power down routine that I use. Tell me a little bit around your power down routine. I think it's not quite as well known as a morning routine, but I would almost go so far as to say it's more important than 100%. A morning routine in this day and age. So tell me about yours.
There's no point in having a morning routine if you have bad sleep.
That's right.
So I don't own a TV, and I haven't for years. One, because I don't want to fill my brain with crap. If I want to watch something and I watch it on my computer, then it's smaller. It's not as nice to watch. You're not going to watch 14 episodes of Desperate Housewives because, eyes get sore.
Yeah.
So I don't watch TV. I read a lot of books. I don't try and I have blue blocker glasses. Try not to have lights on.
Yeah.
I don't use my phone for an hour or two before bed. I go to bed pretty early, like 8:30, 8 o'clock.
Yeah. Well, you're up at 4:30, so that's not.
And I wind down and meditate before I sleep. I read a book called Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, which literally changed my whole life.
Why We Sleep.
It talks about how alcohol and coffee and everything, how much it really does affect your sleep. And affecting your sleep means you will not live a healthy life. Like you'll deteriorate so much quickly. So if you want to do a lot of training, eat plant-based, and then not sleep properly, it doesn't make sense. So everything has to align.
Yeah.
So 100% agree with the power down.
Yeah. I'm a big power downer only because I've got 4 young children and have spent a very long time in that sleep deprivation phase. Like I've really tested how little sleep I can function on, and turns out I can't function as well as what I thought I could. But you kind of end up in this placebo effect where you think you're highly functioning, but you're also, pouring milk in the dishwasher and doing all sorts of weird stuff. So yes, I'm always looking for sleep hacks because I think that, we need to get better at it and put more intention into the way that we sleep and create healthy sleep habits. I'm still working on my kids, but yes, I think, work on what you've got with what you have at the moment.
That book will freak you out.
I'm going to read it.
Everyone should read it.
Down. Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. I'll put the details in the show notes as well. So I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit because you've said you read quite a bit. What would be your top 5 books for leaders around, resilience? I know you can't teach resilience. You have to kind of practice it and learn it and recover from it. But what would be, what have sort of been the most impactful books that you've read so far?
Yep. Number 1 book ever, I'd say would be The Surrender Experiment by Michael S. Singer.
Yeah.
Atomic Habits.
Yep.
The One Thing.
Yep.
The Book of Joy.
Yeah.
And The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari.
Oh yeah, how good's that?
Very good. But all Raman Sharma books are good, actually.
Yeah.
I could go on for days. I'd seriously believe The Surrender Experiment's a life changer.
Yeah, all good. Thank you. I'll put those in the show notes as well for any of our listeners who want to tune in and get their nose in a book, because I think that it's always really interesting to hear around what other people have gone towards in terms of, what it is that's had the biggest impact on them over time. I've absolutely loved our conversation today. I think we've gone far, we've gone deep, we've gone wide, we've gone on so many tangents, and I think that your life is absolutely miraculous. And I wanted to thank you again for sharing your story. I think it shows a lot of courage and vulnerability to be able to share, your lowest point, and then the way that you've actually turned your life around in what's a really short amount of time, and how you're going on to teach others how to do that. And I think that that's really important to acknowledge. Yes, you've come from somewhere and this is where you're going. And I think you are absolutely someone who can inspire other people who are having a really hard time right now to turn around their lives and start focusing on what it is that they want. Before we say goodbye, did you have any tips you wanted to leave any of our listeners?
Get healthy.
Healthy, love it.
Sleep properly.
Yeah.
Look after the planet and yourself.
Love it. Well, thank you so much, Oliver. This has been absolutely wonderful, and I will catch you on the flip side.
Thanks.